Welcome back to In the Can with Carmella Cann, the place where we cut through the noise, ask the hard questions, and talk about what's really happening in America today. I'm your hostess, Carmella Cann, and this podcast is a personal one. We're diving into topics that hits close to home, our First Amendment right under attack. Recently, I experienced something that shook me to the core. I came to find out my phone was illegally tapped, my text messages and apps were being unlawfully surveillanced, and people in my life were contacted to indirectly harass me for hosting a variety of guests with different political views. And this got me thinking, how far are we willing to let our freedom slip before we say enough is enough? Tonight we're peeling back the layers of censorship, surveillance, and the danger of political targeting in America. And joining me for this powerful conversation is someone who's not afraid to speak his mind. Lovari, singer, songwriter, actor, and proud Republican. Together we'll talk about what it means to stand your ground in a world that too often punishes those who do. Welcome, Lovari. So, Lovari, what do you think recently, freedom of speech in this country has been going on? I believe there's a lot of censorship that's been going on. I've been someone who's been the target of harassment. I was the target of retaliation for several weeks after I had to file a lawsuit for being harassed. That I was being politically harassed just for allowing Republicans like yourself on my podcast. I featured all types of people from Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, and believe in having a balanced show. But for even showcasing conservative voices, I was attacked and harassed for several months, where I had to file a lawsuit, and then after filing that lawsuit was met with retaliation for several weeks. My phone was tapped. People they used my text messages and apps to try to contact my contacts, to use people I know to harass me, basically. What are your thoughts that are happening in this country when it comes to freedom of speech?
Up until 2020, I was independent, and then during 2020, I changed to Republican for the same reasons, because at the time in 2016, I was still a bit on the fence about Donald Trump. And then in 2018, there was something called the Music Modernization Act, which occurred, which was signed by Trump, and it gave artists more revenue from streaming, and a significant amount of more revenue from streaming. It's still not much, but it was more of a significant amount than what we were getting. The act was on the table when Obama was president, and for whatever reason, he didn't sign it. So when Trump signed it, and again, like I said, at the time, I wasn't anti-Trump, but I was still on the fence about Trump. When he signed it, I went ahead and said, thank you, thank you, President Trump, for signing this as an artist. And it was, you would think I had murdered babies or something like it, the backlash that I received, even though people were like, oh yeah, we are getting a significant more amount. So when that happened, I started just researching even more about things, and I said, you know what, this is so unfair, just because I'm thanking somebody for doing the right thing, that when Obama was asked to do it, for whatever reason, he decided not to do it, regardless of how people felt about Trump at the time. He went ahead and did this thing, which was an all-around win for artists. There was absolutely no negative aspects for artists in regard to this. It was like a win-win situation all around. And people, like I said, they acted like I murdered somebody, like they were against me horribly. And at the time, I was doing a lot of LGBT.
I'm just trying to frame and trying to understand what you're trying to say. So are you saying that you were being attacked for agreeing with Trump? Is that what?
Yeah, but that's also what made me become Republican, because of the fact that I said, wow, look at this. Like, we're supposed to be a democracy, and I'm thanking somebody for doing the right thing, that people were asking Obama to sign this when he was in office because musicians weren't making money. Trump goes ahead and signs it, and instead of, what are you supposed to say? Oh, fuck you for signing this, even though this is helping us? You know what I mean? Like, people didn't even want to thank them. Well, you don't have to say thank you, Trump. Just say thank you, government. I'm like, no, it was Trump that did it, so thank you, Trump. and ever since then I had backlash too. Then, we don't have to go into my entire history post then, but the same thing happened. I had the song "Keep It Moving," cancel culture. I performed it at an America Freedom event, and which was a Donald Trump supported event, and Jimmy Kimmel made fun of me for performing on it, made fun of an injury that I sustained. It up until recently, that song, which we know has charted, we've heard it on the radio, and it was on Jimmy Kimmel, and recently I had a fight because Spotify removed it from their platform. They said, "Oh, you have artificial streaming, we're removing it." For no rhyme or reason. Then they went ahead and removed my first top 10 single.
I just want to bring us back to keep us on track of the conversation.
On track of the conversation. So I'm telling you, yes, I've experienced the same thing.
Okay, so...
And I had a fight to get things installed, just like you, fight to get things installed too. I had 2 songs removed from Spotify.
I was severely harassed. People contacted, neighbors of mine, friends of mine.
It's also a form of harassment as well. Because you're doing things which I invested money in, which were real. My song really charted in the UK top 10, and they're but then because I was vocal about supporting Trump, all of a sudden, your song is being removed. What? Why?
I'm not trying to. I don't want to make this podcast about you or me at this point, but I actually had illegal activity where people tapped my phones and were monitoring my.
And that's what I'm saying. So these things are not. Regardless, yours were definitely much more vicious, of course, absolutely.
And the sad part is that I don't even consider myself an influencer. I only have maybe a little over. I've broken maybe 2,000.
You're a public guy, and you have a show. You are a public figure. So forget about the word influencer. It's just public figures in general.
But right? I would just and if someone's small, I don't consider myself as someone who has a huge following in my podcast, but if someone like me can get attacked to the level I was attacked, I can only imagine what message are we sending now in this country where, and again, I in July filed a federal lawsuit against my First Amendment right to free speech. I, just from, like I said, hosting, various voices on my podcast.
Right.
My podcast does not cater to any specific party or any specific, and it's just I was dumbfounded to what extent people are willing to go through and what laws people are willing to break. And a lot of these people are hypocrites because they're the very same people who attack Trump or say that he's a bully.
The same thing. Right, exactly.
But they're just being the big bully themselves. And breaking all types of laws.
It's the same people, especially artists. Come on. Freedom of speech, music. Music is universal. Music should help people, but the same thing companies were the ones that because it wasn't a coincidence that around the same time I came out with that, performance, and Jimmy Kimmel is the same time they were pulling my songs off the thing. Come on. It's obviously that for that reason. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm in agreement with you. And I'm like, yeah, it just happens for sure on different levels to both of us and to other people I know that, of course, I won't speak for the same thing. But I understand what you're saying. You're not even.
I don't even identify as a Republican. So I'm not even someone who.
So you're right. So that's what I'm saying. So look at that. Look at it at what's happening too. You don't even identify as a Republican, right? It's like fascism. It's a lower version of Nazism minus the violence. Although I'll tell you, I've had people threaten, whatever with me.
I've had people contact friends of mine and people in my building to harass me, and they try to use my network of people to try to intimidate and harass, all based on a federal lawsuit. And which is retaliation, which happens to be actually against the law in itself as well. It's against, it's a federal crime. And like I said, my phone was illegally tapped. They contacted all types of people I know, got access to information that, were trying to tamper with my podcast. And it's it really opened my eyes because it was no longer something I was hearing about in the media, which sometimes we hear about these stories.
Yeah.
But it was actually happening in real life to me, which was
scary. It feels like you're in a science fiction book, right? It feels like 1984 or Brave New World or, something along the lines of that nature.
It's almost like sometimes it's like, you know what, like these stories are true. Like
Twilight
sometimes when you're removed from, and you hear just these stories on the media and you don't know to what extent, and then when it happens to you, it's like, oh my God, this is going on in the world. This is not just the media, people making this up or blowing things out of proportion. This is the culture and environment we're in right now. And it's kind of been challenging because I like I said, I'm going to continue featuring independents, Republicans, and Democrats. I'm not going to steer away from my values of what I believe is hosting a balanced show. I'm not an echo chamber for any party or any agenda.
Right.
I'm here to create conversation. Last month I had a Democrat, you're a Republican. Hopefully next month I may have an independent. Like I said, I'm not going to veer away from the format I have been using or allow intimidation to sway me in any way. And on some level, I kind of, as much as people have disliked Elon Musk or Joe Rogan, I now understand some of their fight for trying to maintain free speech.
Sure.
Because speech is being censored in this country, and people are trying to bully you in a way.
Trying.
They are. I'm glad you corrected me. You're right. They're not trying. They actually are.
They are bullying you.
Yeah, they're bullying people. And it's like, and you mentioned you're an entertainer, and like, Hollywood's like, I would say 99.9% to the left. And how has that been for you as someone who identifies as a Republican, knowing that the industry you're in, I would say, like I said, 99% of the industry is anti-Trump?
I've had celebrity friends unfollow me on social media. Not all, but some, and including some that I interviewed them when they were just starting out. You know what I mean? And so like that happens, but and it's not right. I don't agree with them not following me, but I understand because they're so petrified maybe of what would happen to them if they found
Do you feel like that's the new MO that media is trying to perpetrate, which is the way to deal with this is cut ties with people, like don't invite them in your home?
They said it. They said it when Trump was elected. They said we must cut ties. Don't invite them. Don't go to their barbecues, whatever. They were saying all these things. Don't go to family functions if they voted for Trump. They were actually saying it. And like I said, I stand by this as much as I...
And I feel like that type of rhetoric is creating the divide in this country.
It's bratty.
No, it's actually creating the divide. It's really creating this hostile environment for citizens.
And as much as I love Newark, and I lived in Newark for several years, like the majority of Newark, the city of Newark, unfollowed me, including the mayor. When that happened, and I'm like, wow, all the free performances and support I did all these years in Newark and talking about Newark wherever I went, and then they go ahead because my support is different from who they supported. It was just like, wow, who's the fascist? Who's the bully? Yeah, for sure.
I definitely feel like media is playing a huge role. People are having, issues with family members and friends and taking this messaging of like, well, the way to deal with this is we have to cut people off. We have to unfriend them. We have to. And it's really hostile. It's creating a really hostile environment.
And immature. Very immature.
Because... if you were to take politics out of it, half the time most people would enjoy everyone's company, but they're creating this where it's a matter of, like you said, it's beyond bullying at this point to some extent.
100%.
And,
100%. A friend of mine a friend of mine, and she's I won't say her name, but she's a public entertainer, and she's drag. And there was a time where she was told me that she was basically homeless, and I was giving her all these resources, tell her where to go, and I don't really have much financial things, but I even give her a little bit of finances, and she stopped following me. And I'm like, wow, do you remember? I didn't even say this because I'm not going to say to her, but I was like, wow, does she remember all the things that I did for her? You know?
Yeah, it's a sad situation. Like I said, the people who were behind my harassment, who I believe, I suspect was a former employer studio that I worked for many years ago, that illegally tapped my phones and actually contacted people I know to harass me, usually trying to use people within my Democratic circle primarily, all for just, basically hosting a balanced podcast. And all of it was illegal. Like, none of it's legal. Like, it is illegal to listen to third-party conversations. It is illegal to break into people's phones. It is illegal to access people's text messages and their apps. And that's exactly what happened to me. I'm in court right now. I've had to hire an attorney. It has been quite the roller coaster ride, I would say. And sometimes it's like you hear this stuff where you see it in a movie and you think, oh, this happens, this can't happen, this happens like in movies. And until it happens to you and you realize now how easy and how people are willing to do it, it just becomes surreal. But part of the reason I do talk about this, and I want to talk about this on my podcast, is because I want to be honest about what's been going on, why I had to go to an audio version for season 3 and scale back to 1 episode a month. And this has disrupted.
It's so scary that you have to go through that. And it's scary in general that anybody has to go through that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
that should be a very telling sign.
And I'm going to continue talking about this as the season continues, but it's like, I just want everyone to be aware that freedom of speech is under attack in this country. And, if you really do believe in the right to it, you also have to believe in the right to tolerance. Whether you agree with someone's points, they have the right. And like I said, people don't have to listen to my podcast. Just change this channel. If you don't like it, just don't listen to it. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, no one's forcing or putting any, but I do have the right to host the kind of podcast that I want to host. You know what I mean? 100%. And so does anyone else in terms of a public platform. It's like, if you don't like the messaging or doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. I don't take offense to it. Just change the channel. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you for being a guest again on. Thanks again.
Thank you. It's always an honor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to In the Can with Carmella Cann. We will see you next month in December. And thanks for all your support. See you in December. Thank you.